Hey everyone, it's Andrew with Osbras. Today we have a 2025 Ford Ranger Raptor that's getting a full satin PPF install. So we're going over this gloss finish to give it a matte / satin finish. So I'm gonna kind of go over certain areas with you guys and install so you see hands-on what that looks like, little tips and tricks that we have. We've already disassembled it, so it's pretty much ready to go. I do need to clay bar it, but I like clay barring each individual panel separately, not the whole car at once, because I feel like you just get a little sloppy and a little slack when you do that. So yeah, I'm gonna start this process and get some footage on the way. Yeah, so I'm gonna actually clay bar this. I mean, even though this car's brand new, you still gotta clay bar it. I mean, you still gotta feel, like if I don't have the clay in my hand, I can feel little specks. It's almost like you have to like think hard and feel for it. But if those little specks look like mountains underneath the film, so we got to make sure we get that with the clay bar. So I'm using like a slip solution with this clay bar. So a little bit of soap and water, let it glide so it's not just kind of grabbing onto the actual surface itself. So when I clay one panel at a time. However, if I'm claying on a Fender, I do want to clay onto the bumper a little bit. That way I do get that edge. If I only clay exactly this Fender, and then I do this Fender, and then I go back to claying the bumper, I have to watch out because the clay will hit the actual film on the other adjacent panel, in this case, the Fender. So I don't want to do that, so what I'll do is actually, like while I'm claying the Fender, I'll come in like a few inches over that actual body line, or that separation, just to make sure that you know, I'm not even getting anywhere near the film whenever I clay that other panel. So we actually, before we actually even plotted any satin kits for this, we plotted sections of test film for like the Fender. So we plotted a section from like here down to see how close it actually wrapped into the flare. We wanted to make sure it had enough coverage inside there to hide as much gloss as possible. That way we weren't just trying with satin on first go, crossing our fingers hoping that it was enough coverage. So we tested with clear, we tested the fenders, we tested the quarter, the whole actual quarter up to about here, just to make sure it had enough coverage. Went far enough in with the wraps. We made some adjustments on those, same with the bedside, tailgate. So all these are patterns that are modified for the truck, for satin. If it was a gloss kit, we might just make a few small adjustments and tweaks. But with a satin, we have to go above and beyond and hide all of that gloss. Cut scene. Cut scene.
Why scene?
I don't know. I feel like this isn't safe.
Huh?
I feel like that wasn't safe. Not OSHA. Didn't meet OSHA standards.
It's raw.
It is raw, yeah. I'll give it one more little dust wipe before I make the transfer. Just kind of, actually, you know what I'm gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do? So with satin, we have to kind of push the limits of the film. We have to kind of get it to wrap over more than your just standard kit, more than like a gloss kit that would just kind of go right up to this line and that's it. With satin, we gotta hide all that gloss. So we're going a little bit above and beyond. So one thing I like to do, depending on the panel, if it's flat, if it's like this one, I really wouldn't worry about it. But this one, what I'm gonna do is actually use polish and polish the edges. So it's gonna actually have more of a bite to that panel. You're removing any sort of contaminants, any maybe sort of waxes or greases that are on that edge. That way it's really raw. It has something to really stick to. And that'll help me be able to kind of get a little bit more coverage on these areas that are really tight. Not so much the back edge, but like right in here, maybe that front edge, right there where it kind of butts up against the bumper. It should bite down a little harder, which in turn looks a little better. So I'm using a polish that really doesn't have any fillers in it or anything like that. It's just stripping whatever is on the surface of this paint. So I'll kind of get in there, make sure that's nice and polished. So I'm thinking this front edge, this corner right here, to be able to hide that as much as possible, that sharp edge. It's gonna be a trick to cover that, but we will. And then like right here, because it's got kind of a rounded top. So we don't want to just go to this edge. I want to try to go a little bit above and beyond, but I want to make sure it's going to stick. It's it's not good to just send it out the door, just crossing your fingers, hoping that it sticks, because chances are it won't if it's just barely hanging on. And I'll just wipe that polish off. I'll just wipe that polish off the surface, make sure it's really clean. And then kind of just give it a final wipe before I transfer the film.
That's expensive stuff right there, huh?
Yeah, I don't want to drop this. And I'll just spray the surface with soapy water. Our slip solution allows the film to slide without sticking, because this backing, or the underside of this film, is adhesive, and pretty aggressive adhesive. So last thing we want is just to stick it on dry, or with alcohol even, because it would just bite and wouldn't let go. It'd be like a pit bull. All right, so we've made adjustments on this one. I believe we kept this arch. Now the idea is trying to get a blade back there. We're not gonna remove the fender flare. Every time we remove like a flare and we try to tuck underneath it and put the flare back on, over time the fender just, I don't know if it vibrates or whatnot, but it causes the film to buckle and peel up. So we usually right now, we just get as close to it as possible. So we kept this line from the original pattern. We didn't extend any of the edges. So it should be pretty good. We'll actually be able to drop it down as much as we want. But we extended all the other edges. So what we'll do is we'll kind of focus around this point. Everything else will overhang, but we'll focus around the arch point, get it where we like, and then go from there. That's weird. Look at that. That's not normal. Shoot.
What's on them?
All right, so I guess a little bit of maybe a dilemma here. I don't know. This is a little short and a little shy. I don't know if it's just the stretch it requires. It just looks funny because if I'm over here and I'm lined up over here, hanging over the edge, so if I'm kind of lined up, I was thinking, okay, this is where I want to start. And I'm looking at this, I'm kind of, okay, I'll get it closer. But, oh shoot, let's slide it over. So I have enough wrap over here, right? But then if you come look over here, I'm about an inch away. So I'm hoping it just requires enough stretch to get it down that far. Otherwise we're gonna have an issue. So we'll see, we'll start over here and work our way over. Maybe I'll just have to stretch it a little bit more than I wanted to around that arch, but we'll figure it out. Okay.
Why start there?
Usually it gives me, I guess with this one, because we kept this arch, I have a point of alignment being this arch, the curve of it, and then kind of where this is lining. I know that this is, for the most part, pretty consistent right here. So I have this point of alignment and this. It doesn't always work out well. There's times where I'm like, oh shoot, that wasn't great. Maybe I'll try again, you know? So we'll see. We'll see where it lands. But I'll start right here. I'll work up. I have a little bit hanging over on this edge. So I'm like a 1/16 of an inch actually hanging over this edge close to the flare. And then we'll heat that up or I guess, yeah, heat up the film and get it to tuck in there. And again, hide as much gloss as possible. So it came a little bit away from this edge, which stinks. I don't know why. Could just be the pattern. So I'll lift it up a little bit more and I'll just kind of tweak it. So I'll pull this over this to the right while I'm pulling this bottom where I want it. I don't want to give too much wrap on this way, so that's why I'm pulling right here. If I just pulled straight down, it would bridge all this. I'd pull it over and go over the fender flare. I don't want that. So I'm actually just going to give a little bit of an opposing stretch this way and down.
alcohol right now to attack it?
Yeah, so I'm using alcohol. I know where, I mean, it's pretty much where I want it to be. I shouldn't have to lift it up again, but if I do, then it's all right. So I'm actually only gonna go, screw it, I'll do the whole thing. I was only gonna go to this body line, but I'm already there. I'm gonna pull like kind of tight on this, so it kind of sucks it around this bend. So I'm a little over, which is what I wanted to be. But if I just lay it down, it's gonna be hard to kind of work those fingers out right there. So if I give it just a little bit of a pull, it kind of wants to suck down. Being that I'm squeegeeing up, all the moisture and liquid's getting pushed up, and then it's running back down. We call it like water falling back down, just because of gravity, obviously. I'm squeegeeing the water up, it's running back down. So I gotta kind of move quick, or just double check that water hasn't ran down like it did earlier. Like there's a bubble here and you can't even really tell because it looks like it's squeegeed right here, but there's actually a bubble right there. So I have it tacked to right here. I don't want this moving around. I kind of want it to stay stationary. So I tacked it right there, and I'll get above the vent down, and then I'll work on stretching it forward. It actually might be all right. Maybe it's just me freaking out, but we'll see.
One of those trust the process moments, or what?
Yeah. A lot of times you don't really know, like, normally I wouldn't look over there and just be like, oh, let's see how it's gonna land, but I did, and kind of freaked me out, but I wasn't trusting the process, I guess. All right, so yeah, me pulling on that does get it a lot closer to the front. I am just pulling out the fingers, basically. Just a little bit, it's not much, but from here, working around this vent, kind of protruded outward. So the film's gonna wanna bunch up a little bit more. So just a little bit of a pull kind of gets rid of that. So what I'll do is I'll get it to where I want it, and then I'll work the middle and maybe position the middle exactly where I want it against that arch. So. I actually might go over this edge, because I did keep this edge the same. I might just go over. And then trim it by hand. I didn't like that alignment, so let's try again. I'm gonna temporarily tack this, just so it's not, so it kind of helps me out. If I pull right here, it pulls it up from the arch a little bit. So I'm just gonna actually just give it a little pull right now, just temporary tack it. It's kind of like a third hand. And then I'm gonna go back here, make sure that it's not gripped too hard, so there's no line. I'll kind of pull back till it kind of releases. I don't want a lift line there or a stretch mark, same with the top. Even though I didn't stretch it hard, I don't. It's the last thing you want. You know, a clean install everywhere else, but then you have this big line of maybe white or distortion. And then I feel dirt right there. So there's a piece of dirt right here.
Where?
Oh, it just disappeared. Come through, tack that. I'm happy with that. It gives me a little bit of an overhang into the flare. And I'm using 6 ounces of 99% IPA, isopropyl alcohol, and a 32-ounce bottle. So I'll fill it all the way up to the top of the water, 6 ounces of alcohol. So we have this excess material here. It's gonna be kind of a pain to get out. Let me just make sure I get this top so the water's not flowing back down. So we have to get this out. It's a finger, we call it a finger. It's excess material. I have it tacked down here where we want it. Now I want to kind of pull the film it tells us kind of which way to pull it. But if I lift this back up, I'll kind of soap it past that point. And then I'll give it a pull. I gotta be careful though, because I don't want to overstretch it. If I overstretch it, it's gonna want to pull back over time. So what I'm doing is trying to be more relaxed with it. Rather than grabbing an edge and pulling it, I'm gonna try to slide it with my hand over. Let's see if that does anything. We did extend this front edge, so we expected to trim this. I gotta make sure I pulled it enough this way to be able to kind of take some of that film. So I'll kind of just see where we landed with it. Like, that's not a tight finger. I mean, I actually probably will get away with that and just do that. So I can flesh it out. I got a little bubble. Still got it. So that'll hold all day long. So now that I have that done to like right there, this is tacked, I know it is. I'll get the rest of this out, or down, all this, the rest of this air out. So I'll kind of just work it out. And then squeegee, look at the water that's flown down that I didn't even catch. So you gotta be careful. I don't know if you see that, but it's flown down just from the top. So gotta make sure that you catch all that, otherwise you'll just have a bubble that'll turn into air. And then I'll kind of just give it a final squeegee, just making sure that I didn't miss any moisture. It would feel like a zip, or it would sound like a zip if there was. It's like partially tacked and it's forcing that water through that tacked area. So it would make like a zipping sound. That seems pretty good. So then, now that I have this, I do want to get this corner a little tighter. I want it to kind of suck down around that, so it's not just showing a piece of gloss and a section of gloss. So again, I'll pull up a little bit, and then light pull to the corner, and I'm pulling wide too. So light pull to the corner and wide, and lock it down around that corner, and then you want to squeegee away from that. Some of the guys, I think they call it capping a corner. It's like they cap the corner, CAP. I guess that's a term used for it. So, film's on there. I'll get it to tuck into this arch now. So I'm just spraying it with alcohol so it grabs, it bites. I'll get this first ridge down. And then you can see it's overhanging, which is what we want. And depending on if I can get my squeegee in there, then I will squeegee it down. Other times you can get your rag. Use a little bit more of a low profile squeegee to get in here. Get it down. Once it dries up a little bit and too, I can work at it again if it's still kind of up. It's good for now. Got a little bit of a waterfall from this vent. And then I gotta change my blade out. It's pretty low. I remember it being dull, so I'll crack these.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Pull it out, and I'll get a new blade and put it in there. BRB, cut.
And action.
So now pretty much just trim away. Got a lot of excess everywhere. And kind of just trim it. We have a vent that goes here, so I know I can kind of go to the inside. And I do like to crack the first blade. That's how you know. First blade always has this notch out of it. I don't like that. It's kind of just jumping around inside that little box of blades. And then I'll just kind of comes through on the inside. I just want to make sure I get all the moisture inside this like area. So naturally the film wants to bridge this gap in here, this channel. And if you have moisture in there, it's gonna not lay down flat. It'll actually just bridge. The moisture will evaporate out and you'll have just a channel of air. If it was the opposite, if it was like a bulge, like say there was a bubble right here on this bulge, well, the film is getting pushed against that bulge and it would evaporate with no issues. But when it's in a channel or a valley, you have to make sure you get all the moisture out. Otherwise it will turn into air. So I'm just kind of feeling it, making sure that it's good. I'm gonna have a little bubble there. You're not gonna be able to see it probably. So the vent goes in there, so it doesn't need to be just like perfect cut against every single edge. I mean, it's pretty clean for the most part, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So I just trimmed it about 1/4 inch, so it's like a 1/4 inch wrap from here all the way over. This corner, I went a little bit shy to be able to get it to go over that edge without doing any sort of reliefs or V's or anything like that. So it's holding pretty good with decent amount of coverage. Last thing you want to do is force the film. Just absolutely force it into place, because that's good for now, but the moment it just sees real life outside of the shop, it's definitely going to come up. So I'd rather just make sure it's comfortable, you know, not pushing the limits of it. Even though it is, you know, it's satin, so we do have to push the limits in a way. We do like when cars come back after a week or so, just for a checkup to make sure everything's down. This part's pretty easy. It's probably the easiest part of it on these top edges. If you squeegee all the moisture out of the top, which I'll just give it one last pass, and then load it up with alcohol. This satin film is actually pretty nice. And now I'm kind of locking my finger around it. So my finger's on the top, I'm pushing down on the top, and then I'm curving and making my finger the shape of this Fender. So it kind of just flows out and should keep it pretty down. So obviously I want to double check it, make sure no moisture went up and onto the surface. It seems like it went pretty good. Went pretty well, I should say. Proper English.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
And then we'll see what I'm gonna do for this front edge. Haven't quite decided. So I know it's not really painted. I don't know if you can see it, but the quality's not great. It's like silver right there. So there's no paint right in that corner.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, it's like silver. So it'll still stick to it, but I might just go right to this edge. I don't know. I'll decide while I'm cutting it what I want to do. Just cut the rest of that. I have some moisture lines in here because I was kind of working a lot with alcohol. It's gonna be hard to see, but that'll all settle down. You want to get it to, when you're shoving it in there, you want to get it to release off the actual adjacent panel so it actually can slide over that edge. If it's tacked to this panel and you're trying to shove it in, it's just putting tension on that area. So I'll let that tack up a little bit. Probably work on a little something else over here. I'll honestly probably release it off the door. See them that are up, a little bit of heat with the rag. Did you see those or no?
No.
Right there?
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me get this side.
I mean, now it's not gonna work, watch.
Yeah,
So there's a little bit of heat, the rag.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Just gets it down. You do have to make sure the top surface is squeegeed, otherwise you're just shoving that water around, then it'll go up, down, sideways. That's a wrap on this Fender. We're just getting started on this full body Satin PPF install. So that's it with this video, but we'll probably do another video with maybe that quarter, that cab quarter, maybe the bed sides. I don't know, just to kind of give some insight on how to do this.